It's Friday morning around 10 o'clock and we're at the Watford staircase locks. This is a set of locks. I think there's 6 all in all, which, as it says, is a staircase. And because of the length, you have to sign in or check in with the lock keeper, who currently is at the top lock, which was quite a climb. And they will instruct you when to go, where to moor, so that the water is used to its potential and we don't have a boat sort of clogging up the little areas after the locks between the stairs. I'm sure there's a name to those and I'll ask Chris what those are. So currently Chris is down here on Florrie doing what he's been told, which is to wait at the bottom until he's been given the signal to move forward. I've been told to open the bottom lock, which I've done. The water's coming out so that Chris can go in with Florrie, and then he's going to moor on the right hand side. We're going to leave the lock gates open and there's a boat that's coming down from the top and we'll actually just go through the locks. There's another boat that's just gone in front of us that's been allowed to go 2 locks up. So we will be going through this lock and mooring on the right hand side, Chris. I think he heard me. He's concentrating. This flight of locks is similar to the Foxton lock flight, which also has lock keepers. As you can see, you're in no doubt that you need to check in with the lock keepers before you proceed. I don't know what the penalty is if you go through without permission, but I'm not willing to find out. So let's go and see if the lock has dropped sufficiently to open the gates. Yeah, we're about there. So let's see how we get on. Florrie's safely in the lock. I've opened the ground paddle and the water is coming in. And what Chris will do when the water's equalised, I'll open this gate and he'll come through and he'll moor on the right side of this pound, where we will stay until the boat comes down that's at the top of the lock. I've been told that we need to keep this lock gate open so the boat can just go straight in, so that's what we're going to do. I see Chris has very sensibly raised the side fenders up onto the gunnels. I seem to remember a couple of years ago we were going through the Foxton flight and we hadn't done that and it caused all sorts of problems. So putting the side fenders up not only saves you losing your fenders, but saves you having a panic when you're going through the very tight lock. The first 2 locks at the bottom of this flight are just ordinary single locks. There's nothing complicated about them. But after the second one, it's a little bit more complex. There's a sequence of paddles that you open. There's a red paddle and there's a white paddle. And if I remember correctly from our time going up the Foxton, it's red before white and you'll be all right. I hope that's right, but just in case I get it wrong, there are a number of lock keepers at the top that will be helping us through, but I'll show you what I mean as we're going up. For anyone with children, I've noticed that this area has got absolutely loads and loads of conkers. So if you've got any children that want to collect conkers, you need to come to the Watford flight and you can collect to your heart's content. Some still in the shelves and plenty on the trees. It's all the way up. Incidentally, we've noticed as well, coming along the waterways, we're now on the Grand Union Canal, by the way. We left the Oxford Canal at Braunston and we're now on the Grand Union Canal, but all the way along the canal towpaths we've been finding there's an abundance of sloes and rose hips. So if anybody is into making sloe gin or rose hip syrup, the towpath is the place to be. And I can confirm Braunston, which is in Northamptonshire, is one of the really good places to go. The Braunston Flight of Locks. There's an abundance of sloes at the side of the locks on the towpath. It really is lovely here. Nice for a walk. Anybody fancies a walk out into the countryside? The road's nearby, I can hear the road, but the actual flight of locks, you feel pretty peaceful. Chris is now in the second lock, and trying to close the gates behind him was nigh on impossible. One gate and then the other gate, and both of them just kept opening again as soon as I left them. So I came to the top end and opened one of the ground paddles just enough so there was a flow of water coming through, and with Chris helping me at the bottom pushing the gates closed, and we were able to fill up the lock properly by opening both of the paddles. So we've been told to go into this second pound and just pull over on the side, and that's what we're going to do. And I can see one of the volunteers who's actually on the next lock, and this is actually the flight where you can only really get one boat going all the way up. I don't know whether you can see it. On most locks you can have a boat going up and going down, but when you've got a flight like this, it's so narrow, the boat has got to continue up the flight or continue down the flight. There's no room to actually pull over like we've got here to allow boats to pass and take it in turns. So just like the Foxton flight, has water pounds at the side of the flight. So as I said earlier, red before white and you'll be alright. We have lots of volunteers on this lock, on this flight. They're doing a bit of maintenance, and so we're able to get through quite quickly, but you do have to check in with the lock keeper to make sure that you can proceed with safety and not impede anybody else's flight down. There'd be nothing worse than having a boat coming down here at the same time as we're going up. There's nowhere to go, absolutely nowhere. So there we go, almost at the top now. So here we are at the top of the Watford lock flight. We've managed to get up here unscathed. It looks like there's a boat ready to come down. It is really windy, really windy. It certainly would have been difficult getting up and down this, or getting up this flight. We're not going down it, but getting up this flight without the help of the volunteers. And there's plenty on here. I was just being told that when repair work was done on this, I think it was last year or beginning of this year, and the lock was drained, there were a number of fenders found at the bottom. Rubber fenders were found on the bottom of the lock, and that was because people haven't removed their fenders or put them up on the gunnels before taking their boat down the flight. So a word of warning, a word of caution to everybody: make sure that the side fenders are up on the gunnels before you start moving down or up the flight.